Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we're going to rank the discography tier list style of Italian symphonic death metal band Fleshgod Apocalypse. And hey, if you'd like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, let's dive right into this. We're going to start with their early material, and I'm going to kind of rank their first EP and their first full-length Oracles about the same here. Pretty standard sort of technical death metal at this point. They hadn't fully sort of blossomed into the symphonic death metal band that they would become. And these are, plenty proficient albums. They're heavy, they're enjoyable to listen to. I know some people who still call this like their favorite material from the band, which to me is a little weird because there's just so many other bands that sound exactly like this. So for me, these both end up at C tier. Not much re-listenability in my opinion. Again, like I have so many other technical and progressive death metal bands that play such similar music that I'd kind of rather listen to than these albums. So they're good, but not nearly as good as what's to come. So let's really get into the meat of it, though, with the true side of Fleshgod Apocalypse, starting with 2011's Agony. I absolutely love this album. It is definitely one of my favorites, and just so many amazing moments and songs on here. Just epic in every sense of the word, and I know that word gets overused, but in this case, I think it's warranted. These just amazing introductions, those just powerful symphonic lines, and the vocals, the death vocals, just all chaotic. And you got the more operatic vocals too. I love this intro to the Violation. Just very classically arranged music. I know I've heard them called Wagnerian death metal before, or Wagnerian, I should say. Violation, definitely one of the best songs that they've ever written. This chorus, too. Not even gonna try. Those high notes are ridiculous. The Egoism, also an excellent song. Just so much drama. This is the definition of melodrama when it comes to death metal. And I love the sense of scope and the story. They had some production issues at this point, I will say, and by the way, check out Quest for Metal's rankings of these. Mine are kind of similar, but some differences here and there, but we both definitely agree that their early production had some issues in that, especially when I get into the next album. Things were very kind of muddled. There's so much going on, and it seems like every instrument, I've said this in past reviews of them, is sort of vying for space that's just not there. And so it's just like a whirlwind of just overwhelming instrumentation, and it can be a bit much. It took me a couple listens of these guys to really kind of start to sift through all of the information I was receiving at once. The Oppression, another great song. But in any case, not to stick around too long on this, definitely an A tier album, close to S tier. Of their earlier material, this is definitely my favorite, but let's move forward a little bit here to Labyrinth from 2013. Another overall solid album, and kind of in the same vein as Agony, but I feel again, they sort of stepped up the chaos of the instrumentation without stepping up the production. In fact, I'd say the production on this album feels more compressed and even more kind of difficult to deal with than on the previous album. So there are definitely some really standout moments. And again, very powerful, very epic, but if you're listening to this part even, all those orchestral parts are just fighting for attention. And then when the death metal parts kick in, it's even more crazy. Definitely some loudness wars issues too with this. If you're not familiar with that, Google it. You can find all sorts of great videos and articles on it, but just way over amplified to the point that I feel a lot of the music on this album peaks and you get some distortion. And it's a shame, because I think if they did a re-recording of this now and changed up the production a little bit, then it would be even better. And another reason too why I'd really love to see them live, which I have not yet, but definitely on my to-do list, because I'm sure that these songs just absolutely slay live. But yeah, really good album. Lots of, again, powerful moments from the full songs to these just interludes too, and you can see them kind of just maturing their sound and their songwriting, and lots of cool stuff going on. But again, oh man, on Black Sails. But yeah, it's just, there's too much going wrong with the production that drags it down a bit. So I end up putting that one at B tier. So let's move into kind of the modern age of Fleshgod Apocalypse, and we're starting to see a lot more kind of changeovers with the band members at this point, and especially when they move into the next album too. King is a really good album. I actually did not like it when I first heard it. Didn't really like it at all. It's a much slower album, and I think that was part of the problem for me, is it's much more methodical, and it's the less of the chaos. But as a result, though, in addition to them stepping up the production in every possible way, the high points shine so much brighter. Like, you can just hear, like, the instrument coming through so much cleaner here. Things are given their proper space, and because things are slowed down, it actually kind of helps with that. So big, long intros. I love those choral elements there. And those syncopated vocals. It's my soul. Lots of great sing-along moments here too. The Fool, of course. This was a standout for me. That harpsichord, because that's not something we had really heard much from them before. Very cool intro. All around good song. One of the faster ones on the album too. I think it was re-listening to this one a few times that really sold me on enjoying the record a lot more later on. A Million Deaths is another standout on here too. Nice chuggy parts on here, just more of a death metal track. Cold as Perfection, of course, was a single too, but again, like this, I feel like exemplifies that slower side, which I'm just not as into. Like, I like them when they're just fast and dramatic and epic. And yeah, this kind of sloggier, almost doomier side of them didn't fully appeal to me. So ultimately, kind of a mixed bag on this one. It grew on me a lot, and I enjoy it quite a bit. Each time I re-listen to it, I kind of find new things I enjoy about it. But I'd still kind of put it at B, which is tough. I'd say it's a little bit better overall than Labyrinth, but it's tough because I like the instrumentation and songwriting better on Labyrinth, but the production is just leaps and bounds better on King, and the high points on King are higher, I would say, most of the time than on Labyrinth. So it's kind of hard to split those up because they both have their strengths and weaknesses, in my opinion. But let's move on. That was 2016, and then we had one of my favorite, and as Quest for Metal put it to, one of his favorite albums of 2019 as well, Veleno, which I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm going to bug Quest for Metal now because he kept saying, he said it a different way, and I think it's Veleno. If I remember my Italian class from way back in high school, that was a long fucking time ago. But in any case, as you can see here, lots to love on Veleno. This album is astounding and better than it should be by any accounts, because they had huge changeovers in the lineup. They had people have to like move from guitars to vocals, and vocals are big shoes to fill on these albums. And I forget exactly how it all played out, but lots of changes, but ultimately leading to, I think, the best thing that they've ever done. And when I did my full review of this, I stated as such. I honestly think this is the best album they've done to date, because it brings back the epic, more faster, chaotic songwriting of Labyrinth, but gives it that King treatment in the production. Listen to those pianos. The piano just comes through so clean. You can hear every piece of instrumentation, even though there's still so much going on. Seemed like they learned a lot from King. And so many great like sing-along moments, lots of great hooks on this one too. Like on all their past albums, there were those moments that were kind of like the dun 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 dun, that's the standout like hooks that you remember and sing along to. But a lot of it kind of starts to sound a little bit samey again because it's so chaotic. But on this album, every every song has its own sort of unique flavor to it. Carnivorous Lamb, I love this big dramatic opening. Almost sounds like something Cradle of Filth might do, or Dimmu Borgir. And this is when I like their slower side, because then it kind of builds up to the faster stuff. There's a lot of great dynamics here, a lot of ups and downs, building into those death metal chugs again. Sugar, of course, man. I didn't think anyone could top System of a Down Sugar, because that's one of my favorite metal songs. But I don't know, like, there's a lot to love about this one. Again, those pianos. It's just dizzying, and you can hear every single note crystal clear. Then you got the operatic choral elements. Like, again, this part, there's so many different things going on with the chugs, and then the racing synth lines, and the guitars, and the vocals, layering the death with the operatic. This is an astounding album. Worship and Forget. More great piano. Like, the piano is kind of a standout on this entire album. Of course, the brass kicking in. Absinthe, another solid single. Big epic choral arrangement again, kind of on par with sort of like Dimmu Borgir again. And they did a good job with the vocals. Now, there are some weaker points here where the vocals kind of crack on those higher parts again, because we're, again, seeing a shift in the vocalist, and I think that is like the one area that they can work on moving into their next one, but everything else is on point. Like, just take everything they did with this one and just step it up to the next thing on the next album, and I will be a very happy camper. But yeah, I could talk all day about this album, and I'm just going to leave it at S tier, though, for sure. So good. Fantastic. If you haven't listened to Veleno, then go listen to it now. Maybe you fell off of their discography earlier on because you didn't like some of the things that they did. I challenge you to try this album, and I think it'll get you back into them. But that said, let me know what you think down in the comments. What's your favorite Fleshgod Apocalypse album? What's your least favorite? But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.